What's up, friend? 今回の動画を作るにあたって、どうやったら視聴者の皆さんが日本語学習の効率と学習成果を最大限まで高めることができるのか、そのコツについて日本語ネイティブなりに時間をかけてじっくり真剣に考えました。I don't want to waste your time, so I'm not going to reiterate what's covered by hundreds of other YouTubers. In this video, I'll discuss 6 common mistakes beginners make that can hinder their Japanese learning efficiency and slow down progress. By avoiding these mistakes, you can optimize your Japanese learning and achieve much better results in less time. I've condensed all of the essential information in this video to save your time. Especially if you're new to Japanese, make sure to watch till the end because I truly believe this video will save you hundreds of hours in Japanese learning. Let's get started. Mistake number 1. Not examining the practicality of the learning resources. You should choose different learning resources based on your language learning goal. And I will categorize Japanese learning resources into 3 different groups based on their practicality: casual, daily life, and formal. For example, anime usually falls into the casual category because it features a lot of conversations between peers and even enemies who need to be punched. Learning Japanese from anime is great, but some expressions are not commonly used in daily life, like てめえ、貴様、くそ and 海賊王におではない. In contrast, textbooks are usually on the opposite end of the spectrum. The expressions you learn can be too formal and sometimes outdated for real-world use, as they were likely published many years ago. Japanese textbooks usually focus on honorific language, which is used to show respect towards the person being spoken to, such as des, mas, deshita. Sure, we use honorific language a lot, but it can be strange if you use it to your peers or friends. So it's important for you to know the practicality of different learning resources. Watching anime or reading textbook is totally fine, but if you want to speak fluently in daily life, I recommend incorporating more real-life resources like YouTube videos or Netflix shows. Mistake number 2. Applying the pronunciation of another language to Japanese. Many Japanese learners try to apply another language's pronunciation to learn Japanese. It's understandable. I know it's convenient and helpful in memorization. But it's a costly mistake to avoid because Japanese has its own pronunciation system that's different from the others. So if you are not making intentional efforts learning the pronunciation from scratch, forgetting about how you speak other languages, it's almost impossible to speak Japanese like a native, unless it's Korean. Just kidding. For example, if I try to apply Japanese pronunciation for studying English, I'll be speaking like this. Thank you very much instead of thank you very much. It's very nice to meet you instead of it's very nice to meet you. And vice versa. Let's say you try to apply an American English accent to Japanese. It'll be something like 私はリンゴが好きです. If it's Chinese accent, it'll be like 私はリンゴが好きです instead of 私はリンゴが好きです, which is the correct pronunciation. Do you see my point? Good. Also notice that every single character in Japanese takes up the same length of time when pronouncing, different from English, which extend the sounds of each character, like A, B, C, D. For Japanese, imagine the rhythm of chopping a cucumber, like ta 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 ta, ai ue o kakikuke ko sashitsute so tachitsute to naninune no. The rhythm of Japanese is pretty unique. So let's say if you apply your English mind to Japanese, it'll sound like どんな食べ物が好きですか? Some characters are given more weight than the others. The correct way to say it is どんな食べ物が好きですか? Notice that each character occupies the same length of space in a sentence. If you develop Japanese pronunciation system without relying on other languages, you'll have a very authentic Japanese pronunciation that will definitely differentiate you from other Japanese learners. Mistake number 3. Over-relying on another language during the learning process. It's almost impossible to not rely on another language in the very beginning. What I'm saying is don't over-rely on it. You can learn the basics of Japanese using the language you speak. It's totally fine. But as long as you have built a solid foundation in Japanese, meaning you understand hiragana and katakana, and some basic kanji and vocab, you shouldn't always rely on your language to study it. In my opinion, watching videos online is one of the best methods to learn Japanese because it always engages audio. You should immerse yourself in as much Japanese audio as possible. Instead of watching videos explaining the meaning of Japanese phrases in English, go and watch videos that are fully in Japanese and fit your Japanese level. If you choose the former, the amount of input you'll get will be extremely limited compared to the latter. You might say, it's hard to find, konoyago. No worries, I found great resources for you. Here are some of the Japanese YouTube channels that can be very helpful to beginners. So if you are interested, post a video and check them out. Also remember that any other Japanese videos like anime, movie, or TV shows can be great options too, so I strongly recommend using streaming platforms like Netflix so you can inundate yourself in Japanese environment regardless of where you are. Give it a try for a week or a month and you should see huge progress in listening and speaking. Mistake number 4, studying too much grammar. I recently learned that some languages require native speakers to study grammar, but what I can say for sure is Japanese is not one of them. I was born and raised in Japan, and I can say with certainty that none of Japanese native speakers learn grammar in school. It's not in the curriculum, period. I'm not gonna say that you shouldn't study grammar at all. I do see understanding some basic grammars can be very helpful to some Japanese learners. For example, Japanese sentence structures follow the SOV format instead of SVO like English. In English, we say, I ate an apple. But in Japanese, we say, 私はリンゴを食べました, which is I apple ate. It's also helpful to know that Japanese is a topic prominent language, which means that you can usually omit the subject in a sentence. So we usually just say, リンゴを食べました. Of course, if your learning goal is to pass Japanese language exams, you have to study grammar. But if your goal is to be fluent, studying too much grammar is not necessary. There was a time when my college friend asked me a bunch of Japanese grammar questions. And I was literally like, what the heck is grammar? And then she explained to me this grammar and that grammar. I was like, holy
so hard.
By the way, Japanese students are among the best at English grammar. They need to study it for getting into a good college. However, if you visit Japan, you'll likely notice that most of the young people can't speak English at all. Similarly, mastering Japanese grammar won't make you fluent in Japanese. In the past, without internet access, people had no choice but to study grammar for a systematic understanding of Japanese. I think that most Japanese teachers still emphasize grammar with foreigners because it's a safer and measurable approach. They can't just advise students to go home and watch YouTube or Netflix for learning Japanese. There are so many uncontrollable factors, and it's hard to measure the progress. In short, studying grammar might help you achieve moderate success in studying Japanese, but will not help you achieve real fluency. Mistake number 5. Not practicing speaking daily. I know you've probably heard this many times, but here's my version. By practicing speaking, I don't only mean just talking to native speakers. Whether it's online or in person, talking to native speaker is definitely a great way to practice. However, it's true that it can be challenging for many people to do it on a daily basis. As an alternative, you can also practice speaking when watching videos online. When you hear useful expressions, observe closely the tone, pronunciation, and facial expression of native speakers. Pause the video and imitate them by speaking out loud. It was so helpful when I was learning how to speak English, so it should work for Japanese too. If you don't practice speaking, you'll never be fluent in Japanese. And the thing about speaking is that it's like a tiny muscle that shrinks if you don't use it.
Leg.
Even though Japanese is my native language, there was a time in college when I didn't speak Japanese for about 6 months. And when I started speaking it again, some expressions didn't come out naturally. And it can be more extreme if you're just getting started. If you don't use it, you'll forget very fast. So consistency is the key. It's important for you to develop a sustainable plan for practicing speaking. Even 5 or 10 minutes a day will make a big difference. Use the internet. Use the internet. Use the internet.
Shut up!
Mistake number 6. Not changing learning strategy in different study phases. I've seen many people not changing their learning strategy throughout the process. For example, only reading textbook, memorizing vocab and grammar, and repeat the process throughout. And that's a huge mistake in my opinion. Let me explain. I'll divide Japanese learning journey into 3 main stages: beginner, intermediate, and advanced. I believe the most effective way to learn Japanese is to establish a strong foundation in the basics during the beginner stage, and then accelerate learning through a video in the intermediate stage. In the beginner stage, you need to get to at least M5 level, ideally M4 level. I recommend checking out the YouTube channel called Learn Japanese with JapanesePod101.com to learn hiragana and katakana and the basics of kanji. After that, you can use the website called JLPT Sensei, where you can find and practice all of the vocab and kanji needed to achieve M5 or M4 level. If you pay $5, you can download all of the PDF resources, which can be really helpful, so I'll highly recommend, but you can use the website for free too. And after mastering the basics, you'll be ready to enter the fast lane. It's like during the beginner stage, you have no choice but to drive down the street waiting for the traffic lights. But in the intermediate stage, you have the option to enter the freeway by focusing more on your listening and speaking during the learning process. Don't keep studying the same way throughout. You'll drive your learning speed down. Prioritize learning from watching videos and real-life situations, not just textbooks or websites. Find your own strategy to enter the freeway and accelerate your learning after mastering the basics. Alright, this is all for today's video. I hope I didn't waste your time and you learned something helpful that you can put into practice. Thank you so much for watching, guys. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe, so I'll be making more Japanese teaching videos like this. Also, I look forward to hearing about your Japanese learning experiences in the comment. See you next time.